Stunning revelations tonight in the case against Casey Anthony as the 23-year-old mother awaits trial for the murder of her daughter Kaylee. Hundreds of pages of just released evidence reveal potentially damaging allegations from Casey's closest friends and family. Casey's maternal grandmother, Shirley Placea, told cops that in addition to stealing checks from Granny, her thieving granddaughter stole up to $45,000 from Cindy and George, nearly causing them to lose their house. Meanwhile, Casey's friends are painting a picture of a young mom who was a compulsive liar. Amy Huizenga told cops Casey canceled plans abruptly because George Anthony had suffered a mini stroke, something George confirmed never happened. Total fiction. That's not a little white lie. But if Casey is a pathological liar, does that make her a murderer? Can the prosecution make hay with any of this? Plus, just who is little Kaylee's father? Conflicting accounts continue to pile up. We will try to get to the bottom of this paternity nightmare. So many issues, and we want to hear from you. Give me a holler. 1-877-JVM says. That's 1-877-586-7297. But first, my fabulous expert panel. Thomas Luca, attorney for Lee Anthony. Steve Cardian, former criminal investigator. Darren Kavanaugh, criminal defense attorney. Judy Kuriansky, Dr. Judy, clinical psychologist, and Gene Casares, anchor for the Legal Network in session. Let's start with you, Gene. Great to see you again. Tell us all about these shocking claims of Casey's grandmother about Cindy and George almost losing their house, and then she has these shocking comments that she felt Casey should have gotten beaten up in jail so she'd finally tell the truth.
Thank you, Jane, so much. Shirley Placea is the mother of Cindy Anthony. She's the grandmother of Casey Anthony. She spoke to investigators August of 2008, and very insightful comments of what she and Cindy had gone through. First of all, she said that Casey had stolen so much money from her mother, Cindy, and from their family that Cindy literally had to go into her own 401k plan to pay it back, that they almost lost the house. She also said that in relation to herself, that Casey would go in and would steal checks from her and sign them to herself, notably $54 from the public supermarket for Kaylee's second birthday party, and also about $354 to pay a cell phone bill. She also said when investigators asked her, what can we do so Casey can help us? She said, you know, she'll push you so far, she might have to get physically beat up in jail before she'll say anything. And last but not least, she said the last words she ever said to Casey Anthony, her own granddaughter, were, I love you, but I just don't like what you do.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. This is quite shocking because it is a member of Casey Anthony's own family, her own grandma. Now, Cindy Anthony's frantic 911 call from July contained a key piece of information that is now being corroborated, as you hear, by friends and family, that Casey Anthony was a thief. Let's listen.
Okay, what did the person do that you need arrested?
My daughter.
For what?
For stealing an auto and stealing money.
All right. Casey's grandma, once again, told police not only did Casey steal from her, forging checks, but Casey stole from her parents the total, quote, about $45,000. Dr. Judy Kuriansky, is this just about money, or is there hostility underneath this kind of behavior towards one parent and grandparent?
Well, there certainly is a lot of anger there, and this shows that, in fact, something is amiss in this family when we know that parents and grandparents usually stand by their family members, even if to the rest of us they seem like they may be guilty of something, and they protest and they say such a good person and couldn't done something. But when they are that angry, as it sounds like happens in this case, and particularly money, I have to say I've seen this happen before. When money starts to play a role in feeling like you've been hoodwinked, then sometimes that honesty comes out besides anything of trying to support a family member.
Darren Kavanaugh, could you imagine this trial getting underway with Casey's own grandmother as the star prosecution witness? That would be truly historic in a negative way.
Well, I'm sure the prosecution would love that, but I have so many problems with this kind of evidence, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, first of all, Casey Anthony is charged with murder. She's not charged with bank robbery or embezzlement or some kind of theft crime. So the idea that she would have engaged in these acts of thefts should be irrelevant. And this is also one of my problems, and we've discussed this before, Jane. Where are the attorneys seeking a gag order in this case?
Okay, let me go back a second. You're saying it should be irrelevant. But to me, Jean Casares, this is very much to the point of the case. This is a woman who did not report her own child missing for a month until her own family confronts her. Given the fact that she apparently or allegedly stole 45 grand from her own parents, why would they believe anything? Why weren't they more quickly suspicious of the fact that she wasn't producing her grandchild day after day, week after week?
And this money allowed her to go and party and do the things and the life she wanted to lead. And I think that's going to be one of the major motives for prosecutors in this case.
And I agree with you, Jane. I disagree with you, Darren, that this starts to look like a profile. After a while, you put lying together in one situation, stealing money in another, and you get one dysfunctional picture that can fit in a way that you might not be happy about.
Well, look, I'll absolutely agree that there is dysfunction afoot in this family, but that's a far cry from saying that because she stole this money, therefore she killed her daughter. There's a huge
Darren,
leap
what
there,
about
and frankly,
Jean
it may
Casares
not
said that she used the money to go out partying, which was part of what prosecutors could argue was her motive for killing the child, that she didn't want the child. We know she tried to give the child away to a friend who couldn't have children of her own, and her mother nixed that. So, again, couldn't that paint a portrait of somebody who wanted the money to go out partying and didn't want a child?
Well, that's exactly what the prosecutors are going to be arguing in terms of the admissibility of this kind of character evidence. But the question is ultimately whether we're going to have a little mini trial on all of these issues. It's a huge legal issue to unravel.
Thomas Luca, you represent Lee Anthony. What is this doing to this poor family? We had some solidarities we saw in the memorial service for Kaylee with Cindy, George, and Lee. And now with Cindy's own mom, the grandmother, coming out that we're reading about this for the first time. She said it a while back. This has got to be devastating.
It is devastating, Gene. It is actually literally tearing this family apart. And in this situation, as Darren pointed out, this is a very circumstantial case, and every statement is important and is important in this case. And turning one family member against another, there is no worse tragedy that could compound this particular one.
Yeah, but who's doing the turning against each other? Isn't it Casey in the end of the day when she's the one who's stealing the money and telling the lies?
Well, if that is in fact true, then yes, she is tearing the family apart. But the family is being torn apart nonetheless. Doesn't really matter who's doing it.
It's very telling when somebody in the family comes out and says that their family member has done something like this. To me, it's extremely damning and really reveals a lot, and is very relevant psychologically whether or not there's a legal part of that case.
All right, we've got so much more to cover. Everybody sit tight. Lots of incriminating testimony to analyze. All this evidence suggests Casey Anthony is a sociopath, perhaps, but does that mean she's a killer? 1-877-JVM says, 1-877-586-7297. I want to hear what